How's it going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 133 of the Shula Bowl podcast. And now I am Jay Gibson, and well, we're going to have two very different segments of this episode because the FIU segment is pretty positive with the Panthers going bowling for the first time since 2019 over a win against Jacksonville State. They still got one more game to go on the road against Sam Houston. Florida Atlantic, though, they lose a heartbreaker at home to UConn. They at least have a game against ECU to maybe wrap up the season on a high note. We're going to start with Kevin Burrell and hear his take on how the Panthers got to 6 wins on their first-year head coach, Willie Simmons. So let's hear from the FIU side of things here. And welcome back to the Shula Bowl podcast. It's quite positive in South Florida, I think, as the FIU Panthers, well, they're doing something that you and I have not seen, nor Kevin Fielder, since 2019, which is going bowling after their 6th win of the season over the first-place team in CUSA, the Jax State Gamecocks. Kevin, how much superiority are you feeling right now as opposed to maybe the other member of the Shula Bowl pod, which will for sure not be going bowling this season?
They got to be pretty down bad, dude, when you think about it. The way that they lost to UConn is really sad, and I feel bad for them just because.
You do?
I feel bad in the sense that it would have been cool to see them maybe both teams make a bowl, but because it's cool, you know, Kitley and Willie in their first year, like that would have been cool. But it was pretty funny how they lost, and I cannot lie. I rewatched the video quite a bit, and each time I still wonder how the hell did that kicker miss it. But yeah, no, times are good down here in South Florida, in the real South Florida, not Boca Raton. And FIU is one of 3 South Florida teams to make a bowl: FIU, USF, and the University of Miami. UCF has a tough task against BYU, so they could be the 4th team to make one. And I think FSU needs to win one more game, too, to make a bowl. So could see quite a bit of South Florida teams make it, and FAU will be left out regardless of outcome, unless there are not enough bowl-eligible teams. And who knows, maybe a 5-7 FAU team, assuming they beat East Carolina, gets into a bowl.
So let's talk about how FIU was able to do it. They had 2 opportunities to get to that elusive, coveted 6th win, but they made it happen this time around against the number 1 team in the land. Just talk a bit about what you saw out of them maybe these last couple of weeks against substantially different teams like Middle Tennessee and Liberty that made you go into this feel like they could do it, and what ultimately paid off for them based on what you saw those past couple games that they pulled out against the Gamecocks that worked.
Yeah, I think it starts with second half adjustments. I think this team has done such a good job of adjusting in the second half. Willie commended it every single – within this 3-game win streak, Willie's noted the second half adjustments all 3 times, so that's super cool to note. Like Liberty had less than 100 passing yards in the second half. Jacksonville State, less than 100 passing yards in the second half. Cam Cook only ran for just over 100 in the second half, which is crazy to think, but yeah, that did happen. And then overall, the adjustments that they made in the second half, just causing turnovers, back-to-back drives where FIU forces a fumble on Cook. One of them results in a touchdown, which was huge. So FIU's doing the right things in that second half. Obviously, you wish they could do this from the start of the game up until the very end, but can't always do that. And but no, overall, I think that's been huge. I also think Keyshawn Owens in this last game against Jacksonville State was awesome. Really got FIU going, breaks the rushing record for – it's funny, FIU, you break the single season receiving yards record 2 years in a row, and now you're on this little streak where you could break the rushing yards record. And Keyshawn did it in year 1. Hopefully Anthony Carey, assuming he stays, does it in year 2. So really cool there. That was cool to see. And no, I think this defense has been huge. It's been a very big piece of the puzzle. And I think really the linebacker play has been really outstanding. Johnny Chaney Jr., like nobody talks about him, but like he's having a really, really nice season.
Yeah.
Josiah Taylor quietly turning into an all-conference player, maybe next season. Probably won't win it this year. Percy Courtney Jr. probably will be back this season. for 2026. So he'll be a piece to keep an eye out on. So you're gonna have some continuity in that linebacker room with Percy and Josiah starting for FIU probably in 2026. Aside from that, the defensive line, I've liked what I've seen. Jermaine Carter's really come along these last couple of weeks. He's played some really good football. He had a forced fumble in the Middle Tennessee game, had one in the Jacksonville State game. So I liked what I've seen there. And I think offensively, the O-line play has been fine, has been great, hasn't been good. I think it's been just enough, right, to get FIU past these games. Joe Bazansky got sacked a couple times in the Liberty game, got sacked a couple times in the Jacksonville State game.
Right.
But I think the one guy to mention on offense that isn't KJ Owens is Alex Perry. Like Alex Perry, after such a slow start, not able to get it going, it seems like Joe Pazansky's just connecting with this guy on all cylinders. And Perry now leads the conference. I think is tied for first in the conference in receiving touchdowns. He's within the top 5 of receiving yards. He could get to a 1,000-yard season now with the extra game. So I'll be curious to see if he does it. He needs a big game. He needs a big game against Sam Houston. But yeah, no, vibes are high down here in South Florida, as you could tell. And look, this is a stat that's still ongoing, but Willie Simmons is one of like very little first-year head coaches in FBS this season to have made a bowl game in their first year with the program. And while you speak, I'm actually going to find this stat because I have it ready, and it's right here. So Willie Simmons is one. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 coaches right now that have either made a bowl game or are one win away from making a bowl game. So, and just for reference, those coaches are Jake Dickert at Wake Forest, Charles Kelly at Jax State, Jerry Mack at Kennesaw State, Matt Drinkle at Central Michigan, Matt Entz at Fresno State, Jason Eck at New Mexico, Dan Mullen at UNLV, Bronco Mendenhall at Utah State, and then here are the 3 coaches that are still one win away: Jimmy Rogers at Washington State, Dowell Loggins at App State, Tony Gibson at Marshall, and then Charles Huff is already going bowling. So just for Willie to be a part of that list is super cool to begin with.
Yeah.
And Willie, who coaches 100th game, was a win against Liberty. Just you don't see this turnaround this quickly within a program. Now, again, a lot of, and as crazy as this sounds, a lot of credit needs to go to the previous staff, Coach McIntyre, that staff for really paving the way for what this is, because FIU wasn't like Scott Carr got the 3-year extension. When he got here, this program was down in the dumps. Like it was a laughing stock. And for them now to, within this time frame, despite the 3, 4, and 8 seasons, finally at 6-5, could go spot 7-5 with a win over Sam Houston. It really is impressive. And I think that the change, there's a lot that's been going on within these last 3 games that make you feel good. FIU hoping to get their first 4-game winning streak in conference play since 2010. They're currently on the 3-game win streak, which happened in 2023. So it's a lot of craziness going on, and that's why it's such a long answer. But overall, this FIU program is on such a high right now. Jake, we were there. Like, it's good times at Pitbull Stadium. Unfortunately, last game, first time since 2021, FIU finishes the season on the road. So tough there, but still, regardless, fun season at home, and FIU used a chance to finish at 500 or better on the road and at home for the first time since 2018 with a win over Sam Houston.
We have to reverse a little bit, talk about the biggest playmaker for Jax State and how FIU was kind of sort of able to contain him, being Cam Cook, who I think now does lead all of FBS in rushing yards. It's either him or the Missouri running back. I know they've been going back and forth, but while 138 yards is not too shabby, only 1 touchdown and a forced fumble on him as well.
Two forced fumbles.
I think the other one was Creel, who the forced fumble was on. But yes, the defense came out swinging against one of the deadliest rushing attacks in all of college football. So just talk a bit about how they're able to do that, and from a grand perspective, how impressive that was to be able to do that, and what should their opponent in the bowl games really be looking out for this FIU defense, because they've proven they can play against anybody.
Yeah, so Cam Cook in 25 attempts had 138 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. They had the big goal line stop there early in the game too, which I believe was off of Cook, so that's huge. Like again, like we talk about the adjustments. FIU in the first half allowed 150 rushing yards. Now, obviously, that's between Creel, Cook, anyone who ran the ball. in the second half of action, only 101 rushing yards. And I can promise you, not a lot of those were by Cam Cook. So that just shows you the adjustments that they made. Obviously, Cam Cook, you can't contain him. You could only slow him down. And I think that's what FIU did. They slowed him down quite a bit. He had the fumble. He only had one fumble. You're right. So, yeah, I think they did a good job stopping him. And commending, again, like the linebackers, the defensive linemen, like those guys have been playing very, very well within these past 3 games and within this 3-game stretch of MTSU, Liberty, and Jacksonville State. So a lot of you got to commend them for what they've been doing. And now you're going to enter a situation here where you're playing a really bad Sam Houston team, and FIU is going to be able to make some quick adjustments. I mean, Sam Houston ranks 7 in the rushing offense, but they have the worst rushing defense. So it's going to be an interesting matchup.
But just how bad is Sam Houston? It feels like we were ready to write off this team as one of the worst in FBS, but then they turned around, beat Oregon State on the road, and then beat up Delaware at home. It feels like that is such a far stray from how we were entering our visions of Sam Houston a couple of weeks ago. So, beating Delaware obviously is not something easy. You can ask FIU that earlier this season. Does that really worry you? What do you think? That's a fluke win? Did they just catch Delaware lacking? And do you think FIU will be caught lacking, maybe overlooking them as they get ready to go to whatever bowl game they're going to go to?
Yeah, I think they just caught Delaware lacking, to be honest with you. Delaware almost did come back in that game too and beat Sam Houston. Unfortunately, it was not the case for the Blue Hens. But Sam Houston, I do think it's crazy, right? Like you think going into the season, you know what you're talking about. Like people thought like Sam Houston's going to take a step back, but people thought like, all right, Sam Houston's going to take a step back, but it's not going to be that to the point where, like you were going to lose that many games and go 2-9 and be undefeated throughout most of the season. So I found that interesting. But no, I think Sam Houston's a solid team overall. Like their quarterback Hunter Watson's out for the remainder of the season. So I'll be curious to see who they turn to or who they've been turning to. So you'll have to find that out on the Pause Preview show. But like again, they're a decent running team. Passing, they're number 10 in the conference in passing offense. They're the worst passing defense in the conference. They're the worst they're the worst offense and defense, total defense and total offense in the conference. So FIU should handedly win this game, regardless of who's on the field. So FIU should beat them. Should they? Now I will say this: it's Sam Houston's senior day, their last game at home, like last game of the season
Hardly
for the Bearcats.
Home,
yes, at home. But regardless, you got to think that they're going to be trying to spoil FIU's quote unquote winning season.
Mm-hmm. What is the scariest part of Sam Houston that you think could actually give FIU some troubles? I feel like this is kind of a tough answer. Maybe you have it.
No, I don't really think I do, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll start looking for it right now. I mean, their running backs ranks 12th in the conference in rushing yards, and he hasn't even hit 500 rushing yards on the season. Receiving, like probably not that either. Yeah, you don't even have a guy within the top 20 in receiving yards at Sam Houston. Passing, their quarterback, they've ran a lot of quarterbacks this season, but none of them are even within the scale of the Conference USA Interactive Stats rankings. So I guess their defense is a little bit better than people think, I guess. But again, they're not that good. So I really don't think there's a scary part of the Sam Houston team, as much as I hate to break it to you.
What do you want to see more from FIU than anything in a game like this, where you feel like they can go fire off on all cylinders leading up to this bowl game? What sort of group on FIU's team, offense, defense, or special teams, do you really want to see pop off in this game to make you feel like, okay, they're going to be ready to go against an obviously way better opponent in whatever bowl game they end up in?
We haven't spoken to Willie Simmons yet, but I would really like to see what the freshmen do in this game, if they even play freshmen, if we see maybe Christian Langford at quarterback, if we maybe see Clayton Dees get in the game at some point. He's not a freshman, but he's still a guy who's been around this program and still hasn't played. Like, I want to see those guys. Give me Amari Isaac. Give me Kenny Williams. Give me Juice Sterling. So, like, give me those guys, right? So,
yeah,
Juice Joseph. I'm sorry, Sterling Joseph. Like, give me those guys. I want to see what those guys are made of. I want to see if those guys are going to play. I want to see the young guys get some action in there, get some run. And I mean, now you could do it, right? You could redshirt them regardless. So I want to see that. I want to see that be the case. And I think that would be huge. That would be huge. And honestly, I mean, I think that would be a second half type of thing. But if I still see it happen in the first half of action, like, I'm more than fine with FIU just handling business early on, making sure that they get the job done in the first half of action. And then the second half, let's focus on the young guys. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see some new additions to this FIU team that we hadn't seen beforehand this season.
And that kind of goes into what could be another big importance of this game for FIU. Don't have any of your star players get hurt leading up to that bowl game. You need everyone primed and ready to go as you can. If that means throwing in the freshmen to the wild there in the second half, if you're already up by a substantial amount of points, that could certainly be something that they should be looking into. So speaking of huge, I'm wondering your score prediction for this game and the X factor that'll play the biggest role. And because you brought up freshmen, give me your biggest freshman X factor you think that could make an impact against the Sam Houston team.
I think FIU wins this one 45 to 14.
Damn.
Biggest X factor. Freshman, I'm going to go with Amari Isaac. I think he gets in the game at some point. I think he'll be fun to watch. He's a guy who really stood out to me. I honestly thought he would have played more. Hasn't been the case. X factor overall. Let's see Alex Perry try to hit 1,000, right? Let's see him try to get over 100 yards receiving again. Let's see if he could get to that 1,000 receiving yard marker.
Okay.
He definitely sets himself up pretty nicely to end the season on a high note to go into 2026 with the possibility to break Eric Rivers' record. So I'll go with him.
Alrighty then. Kevin feels pretty confident that FIU will walk into Houston and roll the Bearcats to get to that 7-5 mark, securing a winning record for head coach Willie Simmons, which just, it's like clockwork at this point for him as the HC to get those winning records. So a lot of positivity early on in the Shula Bowl pod. Now let's take a trip towards Sadsville and see what's going on over in Boca Raton. As Kevin Fielder has to talk about a wacky, wild, and distraught ending for the Florida Atlantic Owls over UConn. Their bowl season hopes are up, but they still have a pretty interesting game up ahead to close out the year against ECU. So let's hear what he has to say. And welcome back to the Shula Bowl podcast. It's time to talk about our friends at Florida Atlantic and Boca Raton. And unfortunately, they were hit with a big reality pill in their loss to UConn that they are not going bowling. And unfortunately, they're going to have to watch their crosstown rivals do exactly that, which is the first time it's happened since 2018 in the Lane Kiffin era, Kevin. I know the vibes weren't particularly great entering that UConn game, but considering what exactly happened, where do the Boca faithful really stand right now?
It's so frustrating to me because here you are, right? Like you just played your best game of the season. And I'm willing to say that regardless of the opponent, like you played your best game of the season, you put up 45 points, you had a drive with, under 4 or 5 minutes left to drive down the field, score what looked to be the game-winning or potentially game-winning touchdown. And then just like that, UConn goes 15 plays, 75 yards in less than 2 minutes to take the lead. And, you miss a field goal to end the game. It's so tough. It's tough to be that close to like what would have been the marquee win of Zach Kitley's first season, what would have been the game that you can look towards and be like, this is why we're doing this. This is what year one looks like. We're one game away. This Saturday sets up a potential bowl game or a chance for a potential bowl game. And yet you lose the game and you still come out feeling good. You still somehow come out feeling good about where everything is heading because despite the result, I feel like we've talked about it on this podcast before. It is still year one for Zach Kitley for Zach Kitley and this staff. It is year one of them being able to put their stamp on this program and build the program the way they want it to be built. And so you didn't come out there and you didn't win against UConn, but you took a 9-3 UConn team whose head coach just got poached for bigger and better opportunities today or yesterday night with Jim Mora heading to Colorado State. You took them to the death, and you had a chance to kick a game-tying field goal with time expired to tie the game and take it into overtime. And so I think if you're looking for proof of concept from everything that FAU has talked about this season, this offseason, to me, that's proof of concept. That's proof that something is working within the doors of the facility, within the doors of that stadium, within the walls of that stadium, because I mean, that was one of their best games of the year, and it's just really unfortunate that it didn't end with the result that they were certainly looking for.
You know, you mentioned it, Kevin. They have parts of that squad that they can certainly build on, but I think there was at least in this game, there was a building that they should probably tear down with a sledgehammer, being the defense. And we knew going into this game it was going to be an offensive slugfest, but still, to give up 24 points that quickly in the first half, it certainly set the tone. And credit to Florida Atlantic, they could have just bailed out and be like, all right, season's over, first quarter, and we're already looking like not great. But to their credit, they held on there and made it a game and actually took the lead with only minutes to go. So talk a bit about the shift in defense for Florida Atlantic. Early on in the first quarter, really, they were pretty much having their way. From the second and third quarters onward, you only give up 10 points, not too shabby. Give up a few touchdowns here in the fourth quarter, including the dagger. So pretty mixed bag all around defensively, but obviously, you give up 48 points in any game. It's no bueno.
Yeah, I mean, the defense kind of just tightened up in the second half, and it gave FAU a chance to win the game. And I think the biggest part of that was they kind of found a way to take Skylar Bell out of the equation a little bit more in the second half. And I'm not going to say that they figured out a way to stop Skylar Bell because he had 8 catches for 125 yards, including a long of 40. So they didn't take him out of the game at all. But in the second half, I really wish I had a way to find the first half and second half splits for a guy, because it felt like in the first half he was getting everything he wanted. And in the second half, they found ways to take him out of the equation. They found ways to turn the tide just a little bit into their favor. Was it enough in the end? No, but again, there were plenty of opportunities in the fourth quarter for FAU to take a lead and win the game. And it was not just that final drive or the final 2 drives. They had a drive where they got the ball within UConn territory, and then Caden Shields-Dutton fumbles the football. And a chance to, I believe, would have taken the lead at that point is a potential, when you consider it, 14-point swing, because you miss out on the touchdown, you fumble the football, UConn gets the ball back, they go down and they score a touchdown. Those are the plays that kind of just kill a game anytime, especially in college football when you're playing an 8-win, 9-win team like UConn. So it's really tough to be in those situations. And I think the defense just kind of did their job for most of the second half, outside of that fourth quarter where, just being honest, they didn't, or that last drive in the fourth quarter where they didn't really tighten up. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. They allowed UConn to drive down the field with ease in less than 2 minutes to score the future game-winning touchdown. Those kind of plays, those kind of drives, I think it's all part of the learning curve and learning experience. But for the most part in that second half, not only did they give FAU a chance to win the game, they gave FAU plenty of chances to win the game.
Yeah.
And when you talk about complementary football, that's truthfully what you want out of the equation.
Was this one of the better games for Florida Atlantic rushing-wise all season? It felt like for the most part, no one necessarily had a standout performance, but just about everybody contributed, whether it was Shields or Sands or guys like Messer and Veldkamp. They made the most when they had to get out of the pocket or just run around. 4 touchdowns on the ground in this game.
Yeah, none of it is probably sustainable in the long run. And what I mean by that is you probably can't rely on Easton Messer to have a 39-yard rush very often. You probably can't rely on your quarterback to run the ball 4 times for 23 yards, most of that coming on the last drive or on that last touchdown drive for you. But I liked what I saw out of Caden Shields-Dutton. I liked what I saw out of Jamari Sands. I think they found ways to mirror their passing concepts with their run concepts, to include the motion and some of the trickery that they do in the passing game to their advantage in the run game. And I think that really helped against one of the better defenses that they played on the schedule. I think that was probably their most consistent running game, definitely over the last few weeks, but also just in terms of everyone contributing. It felt like when they had good games running the football before, it was just kind of one guy doing it. It was Caden Shields-Dutton running for 3 touchdowns against UAB. It was Jamari Sands having a good game. It was Caden Veldkamp running the football well, but it was never all 3 of them doing their part on the ground. But against UConn, Caden Shields-Dutton led the way with 77 yards. Jamari Sands had an extra 44. Caden Veldkamp had 23 yards. And you look at what I like to call the explosive run plays. Anytime you have 4 players with rushes of over 10 plus yards, those being Shields-Dutton, Jamari Sands, Easton Messer, and Caden Veldkamp, you're going to have a good day on the ground.
Yeah.
Them running for 200 yards or close to 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, an average of 6 yards per carry, that wasn't by chance. That was them being able to find ways to make things happen on the ground, to keep a defense honest, to allow for their quarterback, who threw the ball 55 times, might I add, and Caden Veldkamp, to have a pretty efficient day through the air and give him chances to win the game.
Take us through that kick. Well, I mean,
I don't want to.
I'll just ask you this: did you feel how much inside you did you feel that there was a chance that he wasn't going to make it leading up to it? Like on a scale of 1 to 10.
I think I'm scarred from like sports in general, so I was like, yeah, he's not making this. It's just it's not happening. Maybe it's like the Dolphins fan in me, where I'm just like, everything bad has to happen because this is just how it happens. But it was heartbreaking. Like, it was actually kind of felt like a stab in the heart to watch that kick not go through the uprights, because it felt like if they had went into overtime, you felt really confident about them winning the game in overtime because of the way that they were playing down the stretch. And it, like, even when UConn scored with, I believe, 26 seconds or whatever the official time was, I felt pretty confident saying, man, if FAU can find a way to get the ball into field goal range and make the field goal, get the game into overtime, I feel pretty confident about them winning the game because of the way that they were playing. And then, unfortunately, just I guess the luck of the football gods is just not on your side this season. I'm really starting to be convinced that that's just not how this season was ever going to end. To some degree, am I happy that I don't have to go through a game 12 with, bowl implications on the line? Maybe a little, because those are always the most stressful when you're 5-7 or when you're 5-6 heading into the final game of the year and you got to win it to make a bowl game. Those are never easy. But I would have liked the excitement and the high of having one more chance at winning the game, because it felt like they were right there, and then the football gods had a different opinion.
I almost can't believe what you're saying right now. You could have had a shot at a bowl game. Could you imagine how peak an FIU-FAU rematch would have been in the Boca Bowl? It would have been peak cinema.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It would have been great to make it to a bowl game, but I hate the last game of the season with actual implications on the line. And when we're talking about game 12, you've got one chance to make a bowl game or not. Those suck. Those just suck, because it's like they're the most stressful 4 quarters, 60 minutes of your life, because you're sitting there, you're impacted by every high and every low to degrees that you've never seen before. Like, I don't know if I can handle that, truthfully. Now, they're great if you win. They are just amazing if you win. But if you lose, it's like, man, kind of wish we didn't have to go through that, because that's not fun.
Definitely. Well, unfortunately, the last thing Jim Mora's tenure at UConn will end. The last thing he ever did, or maybe, I don't know if he's going to coach next week or not. Probably not. They'll just run with an interim. But the last thing Jim Mora will have ever done as the head coach of UConn was deliver a heartbreaker to the Florida Atlantic faithful in the city of love, Boca Raton. Shoot. Now, and the worst part, Kevin, it's not going to get much easier now for Florida Atlantic to try to salvage this season, win one in front of the fans. You're taking on an East Carolina team, which, dare I say, Kevin, is one of the most underrated programs in all of the Group of 5, Group of 6. I feel like not many people's talking about the Pirates, but they have slowly but surely built a pretty solid team that'll definitely frustrate whoever they play in whatever bowl game they go to. It's too late for them to get into the American title game, I think, but this isn't going to be much easier than UConn.
In fact, it might be harder.
Yeah.
I look at this ECU team and I look at some of their games that they've played throughout the year. The fact that they took Coastal, beat the living crap out of them 38-0. It's a decent Coastal game. The fact they had a really close game against NC State to start the year and they only lost by 7 on the road. You look at the Temple game and that's a decent Temple team. They beat them 45-14. Memphis 31-27. I looked through their list of results this year and they haven't beaten any of the really good teams in the American. I will caution that outside of Memphis, it's been mostly the middle of the pack and the bottom of the barrel, but they've had some really good games. And this is a team that is kind of finding its groove in terms of what we talked about, very similarly to FAU, where they've had to go through a transition, and their transition was a little different because they decided to keep their interim head coach on staff and make him the permanent head coach. But it certainly paid off for them. They're 5-2 in conference, 7-4 this year. They're heading towards another bowl game. And man, they're a really tough team to beat because of their ability to play just incredibly strong defense for 4 quarters. This is going to be an incredibly challenging game defensively for FAU's offense because, I mean, this is a really good ECU defense.
Yes. And, ECU, like most schools that have to do this, they did have to pay the Alamo Dome tax. And when they got wiped by UTSA, but that just happens when you head to the city of San Antonio, I suppose.
I swear Jeff Traylor has devil magic on that stadium because they never lose there.
That Alamo Dome tax is real, and it will hurt you if you ever have to go over to UTSA. It's really weird to sort of preview this team, Kevin, because there's not one specific area of ECU that they don't really do not bad in. They're a really solid team, especially on offense. And on defense, they might not be the greatest team as far as I think pass defense. They're not even bad. I think their rush defense is actually really good. So like you said, what FAU did on the ground against UConn will not be sustainable because of the defense they're about to play, which is one of the best rush defenses in the conference.
Yeah, ECU doesn't do anything at an incredibly high level. They're not, to some degree, like particularly elite at any one thing, but they're so good at a lot of things. And I think that it may even be a tougher team to play because it always feels like there's just going to be one game where they just do something elite and everything else stays at that level that it's been at all year. And I mean, I look at some of their sort of advanced statistics and watching them play this year from, afar and not really trying to dive into it as much. They do an incredibly good job defensively of preventing explosive plays on the ground and keeping forcing teams to stay on schedule. And when we talk about how difficult it is to stay on schedule in football, it's even harder to stay on schedule against ECU because you're not getting a lot of third and longs. Or third and shorts. You're not getting a lot of easy money down completions. You're getting a lot of third and longs. You're getting a lot of third and mediums. You're getting a lot of situations where you've got to trust your team to make a play. And that's one of the hardest things to do in college football consistently. And I think that's why ECU has been so successful this year, is that when teams are facing 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, it feels like every drive or most drives, what can you do as an offense besides hope to God that one time it puts it all together, because that's an incredibly tough situation to be in. And ECU does such a good job at it. Does such a good job at it. I love that. I love watching that defense play. As a enjoyer of defensive football, that defense is really good. Offensively, not amazing. They're just good on offense, which is even scarier because it means that they don't have this fatal flaw that you can exploit for the entirety of the game.
Yeah. Boy, there's not really much to go over. So I guess I have to ask you the tough question here. What is the biggest weakness in this ECU team, or at least the part of their team that you think FAU actually matches up well against?
I think the biggest thing is that they are sort of prone to preventing or to not having explosive plays on offense. And as a result, their average distance on third downs on offense is actually kind of high as well. And so maybe the pathway is to get them into third and longs and just get the ball out of their hands consistently, because I mean, it feels like it's not going to be a game where you can just, dink and dunk your way down the field, get a lot of 15 play drives and a lot of 11 play drives. Feels like it's going to be one where you have to find a way to create explosive plays through the passing game on offense. And then defensively, you have to prevent those explosive plays. And if ECU has to stay on schedule, that is equally a team that kind of struggles. And so it's kind of this weird situation where they don't do everything well, but they also don't do anything poorly. It's just such a weird situation to be in. It's a weird football team to evaluate because of the fact that they're just good at everything.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing that you need to look at is finding a way to create explosive plays through the passing game. And then on defense, when FAU's on defense, you've got to get to the quarterback. You've got to get in the backfield. You've got to find a way to limit the explosive plays so that ECU, who struggled on third downs, on being successful on later downs, third downs, fourth downs, have to be in those situations where they're not in advantageous positions.
ECU is, I'd like to say, a mixed bag when they have to play on the road. They had that very close loss to NC State, but then they turn around, Tulane, close game there. They mollywop Temple, they mollywop Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina win might be the most impressive win for ECU this season, shutting out a team that is one of the better teams in their division of the Sun Belt that they play in. They're going bowling. So, but this is going to be the last home game for Florida Atlantic. Obviously, not a whole lot to play for as far as postseason goes, but there's still a lot to play for the players themselves, for the fans, for the coaches, for anyone who wants to either remain an Owl next season or transfer out. How important will it be for Florida Atlantic to get this win for everything I just mentioned, and not even just for the fact that they'll finish 5-7? Obviously, not what they wanted to be at the end of the season, but still somewhat respectable.
I think the biggest thing is you want to end the season with proof of concept. Just like you wanted to end the season making a bowl game because it would have showed that you can turn the season around, that, when it looks like it's potentially lost, you can find a way to eke out 2 really close wins against good football teams. I feel like Zach Kittley is still looking for that quote-unquote win. That win that sort of proves that what they're doing is going to work. They just need time, right? Because it's one thing to have a lot of one-score losses. It's one thing to have a lot of really close games against those teams. But you don't get judged by close losses. You get judged by wins. And it's like, man, beating this ECU team that could go 8-4, that's been in the mix for the American Athletic race or conference race all season, would be exactly that. It would give you the opportunity to sit there and sort of point to it and go like, hey, so this is what we're building towards. This is the goal of everything that we're doing. I think that's the most important part of this game. Not necessarily winning the game by 25 points or seeing who plays well or whatever the case may be. I think it's not that Zach Kittley's on the hot seat. It's that you always want to have that to build on. You want to be able to show people that this is what we're doing. This is everything that we're building towards. This feels like the perfect game to do it. And maybe it plays spoiler to some degree. Maybe it prevents a team from making the American Conference Championship. I don't really know the implications there directly because I haven't really been following it. But it does allow you to have that proof of concept, which for a first-year coaching staff, I think that's huge. To be able to sit there and go, this is what we're building towards. You just have to see it out, right? You have to build it. You got to build it. This is us building it. This is laying the foundation for years 2 and 3.
So this game does, unfortunately for Florida Atlantic, have meaning for Eastern Carolina as far as somehow getting into it. Granted, they're in a situation like Miami where a billion things need to happen, but not only does ECU need to win, they need 2 other teams who are currently 6-1 to lose their matchups, being, I believe, Tulane, North Texas, and Navy. So they need at least two of those teams, Tulane, North Texas, and Navy, to lose, and they got to win, and then they are in. So, granted, that's a lot to ask for. So, unfortunately, while Florida Atlantic might be playing for pride, ECU is playing for something important altogether. So, they're going to give 100%, especially on the road here.
Well, that's even better then, because you get to play spoiler.
Yes.
I mean, I think there are always two places you want to. Well, there's really one place you want to be, which is making a bowl game. But man, playing spoiler is kind of fun sometimes. Being able to spoil one team's chance at making the conference championship game, I think I'd like to end the season with that.
What was Florida Atlantic's marquee win this season? Would it be the road contest against Rice, I suppose?
I guess that would be your best bet at finding one if they don't win this one. In terms of just like the fact that a lot of their wins this year have been against Tulsa, UAB, like the really bad teams in the conference. No disrespect to those programs, but like the Rice game was, I think, the first one where you kind of saw it all working for FAU. You saw what it can look like. So there is something in that game, but I don't think like that would not compare to beating ECU. That would have not compared to beating UConn or any of the other three games that they had against the toughest teams of the conference. They truthfully just had the toughest schedule you could get in the American Athletic Conference. But, I think what you really want still is one kind of marquee win that you can hang your hat on, go like, see, it's working. We just need the time to let it work kind of thing.
It's one of the rare instances where there's a few marquee wins for FIU. They took down the number one team in Conference USA twice this season, not to mention the head-to-head win over the Owls. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
They've got plenty of marquee wins. Look, man, I know that I kind of said I would never give credit where it's due for FIU on this podcast, but I feel like you got to give credit to Willie Simmons. Year one of a true rebuild. This was a true rebuild by every sense of the word. To go in there year one, play in the American, find ways to win. That's incredible. That's impressive. Now, I hope they never do it again.
We'll have to come back to this then next year as FIU heads to Boca Raton. But you talked about it earlier, Kevin. It's a must win for Florida Atlantic to sort of show that they're heading in the right direction. But now here's the thing. Are they actually going to do it? And I'll let you answer that. Give you the spotlight. Are they actually going to beat ECU and at least say that they ended the season on a damn good high note?
I'm weirdly positive about it, and I shouldn't be, because FAU is not on the same level as this ECU team this year in terms of what ECU is building towards, what ECU is looking towards. ECU's got an eye on the future. ECU's got an eye on everything that's going on with that program because they're in such good shape. FAU, to some degree, is in this weird uncertainty period where they have to figure out what next year looks like. They've got to figure out what the roster looks like, what maybe the coaching staff looks like. Still, I think they win this game. I feel weirdly confident in saying that they win this game. And maybe it's the biased fan in me. Maybe it's the hopeful, optimistic about everything. But they've looked good over the last few weeks. And they took a really good UConn team to the wire. And they almost had the win. I feel like Coach Zach Kitley, this coaching staff, this team gets their marquee win. I think you get this marquee win at home against ECU. I think it's another high-scoring one. I don't expect this to be a dogfight. I expect this to be a gunfight. And I think FAU wins this one 41-37, with the game MVP being Easton Messer, who puts together another good performance across the board.
Would certainly be a fine way to end the season, especially the week after we get to wrap up the Florida Atlantic side of the Shula Bowl pod for this year with the season in review episode for the Owls. Unfortunately, we can't do the same for the Panthers because their season won't be over after they take on Sam Houston this week. I'm just saying.
I don't think that's unfortunate. I think that's a good thing. No?
Well,
I mean, we can always do the season in review early.
Yeah. You're right. I'd like to do it with you and Kevin Barral together to see the shenanigans that might show up as the episode continues. But that's all well in the future as we have another week of football left to be played here. So thank you to everyone who's watched this episode of the Shula Bowl pod. Go watch FIU, Sam Houston, Florida Atlantic, ECU. I think both games are on ESPN Plus. Noon kickoff, I want to say. for Florida
It's
Atlantic.
noon kickoff for us. Yeah.
Yep. So definitely sure to tune in. And as usual, thank you all so much for watching the Shula Bowl podcast. Go watch some football.